All right. It says we are live, so let me jump over here and check this real quick. Make sure we've got good audio. I need to get in here anyways. I can hear something. You know, I'm actually going to turn the gain down a little bit. All right. It says we are live, so let me jump over here. Good. Equalizer. Compressor. Check this real quick. Make sure we've got noise. Good audio. I need to get in here anyways. Just checking a couple of things here real quick, guys. Okay, that looks good. Hear something. You know, I'm actually going reset. We're good there. Good there. All right. It says we are live, so let me jump over here. Sorry, guys. Okay, so all that looks good. Where was... Oh. Advanced. All right, everything looks good. It looks like we have some members on. So welcome. It is time. So welcome everybody to Wapiti Live Q&A. So if this is your first time tuning in, if you are on a computer, you can actually just click on the screen, should open it up in another window. There you can actually put chats, comments, questions, whatever on the computer. I will see them live. I do have the YouTube open. Even though this is on YouTube, it is unlisted. So you guys are the only ones that can see it. Now, if you're watching on your computer or on your phone or your tablet, down below the video, you'll see a little balloon icon. Just click on that. It'll take you into another screen. You can actually put your comments, questions, everything in there. And then once you get done, it will actually bring you back. So, Mr. Jim, hello. So, I know I was toying around with going at the 7 o'clock, and it seemed like we had a lot of confusion. So let's just keep it here at 7:30. That have done forever, and I think everybody's kind of a little more used to 7:30. I know when I was trying it at 7 o'clock, I had quite a few people jumping in at 7:30, and so yeah, 7:30 back to the normal time from here on forward. So, all right, so. Have heard from a lot of you, and I've also heard from a lot of other people about their elk hunts and dealing with quiet elk. We had the same thing. I never saw peak rut activity. I never saw peak bugling. Definitely quiet elk. Mr. Jay Cawley, how are you, buddy? So yeah, quiet elk. I never saw... the first couple of weeks of the season, on the weekends and stuff, they were kind of bugling pretty good from what I hear. We hunted that new area for quite a while. We were going to move about the 18th, 19th, somewhere in there, but Mother Nature decided to dump a lot of rain and snow. Any of you that were up at that time, you know what I'm talking about, and extremely cold temps. So we were delayed by a day or two getting over into the normal area. Did get into quite a few bulls. Had some misfortunes. So for those of you that know, I got hit with COVID 2 weeks before season, 3 weeks before season, roughly right in there, 3 weeks before. Definitely had an effect on me. Did not have the legs, did not have the lungs. However, my 9-year-old son joined me this year. First time he's joined me in elk camp and out elk hunting. So, between the COVID and him, really adjusted the way I hunted. Had an absolute blast with him out there. We did get some shot opportunities. I think all in all had 5 or 6 shot opportunities. Wasn't a bad year. Learned some new areas, and actually in the area that we have been hunting, we actually learned some new things about that area, which was pretty dang interesting. So I am heading back up in 2 weeks, just a little under 2 weeks, about 11 days. The 10th, going to do a rifle hunt for cow, and then I have a late October rifle hunt for bulls as well. So, all right, so quiet elk. Like I said, we did get some responses on location bugles, but for the most part, really, really quiet elk. And in fact, this past Saturday, rolling off the mountain after dark, was the first time that I heard a bull crack off on his own all season. Everything else had to kind of coax, get them to bugle. And so tonight, that's what we're going to talk about: how to deal with quiet elk and what can you do to get them to pipe off. Because when they're not piping off, it's tough. It's trying to find a needle in a haystack, and a lot of times you end up bumping them. You might get lucky and see them. But when covering ground, you're more apt to bump into them and bump them out of where they were. So how can you get quiet elk? Now, this is a sound that I don't have covered in the cow elk instructional video. It is included in the new video for the e-course, but it's simply a lost calf. And the lost calf is an effective sound on bulls that, they will pop off. They will, and let me back up for a minute. This is the first sound that I will use to kind of pull a response out of them, is the lost calf. But it's a sound that works a couple of different ways, and I know you guys have heard me, especially those of you that have been following for a while. You've heard me talk about the lost calf in late season hunts, just because it plays, especially if it's a cow hunt, because it plays with the maternal instinct. But it has a really, really good effect on bulls too. That those bulls, when they bed down, especially like last week where we had full moon, really bright moon, so they were going to bed early. It has a really, really good effect of, getting these bulls to respond. And because that's basically all you need. You need them to respond so that you can pinpoint them, so that you can slip in and get set up for that midday activity when they get back up after they've been bedding down, which, we had some good midday activity quite a few days last week. Would just break into the breeding sequence midday. But first, we had to locate them. We had to know where they were bedded down, because we wanted to get within 125, 150 yards of them. So that way, when they did get up for that midday activity, they would come our way. So, lost calf. If you remember the lost excited mew, so that's a lost excited mew. That is a cow that is lost. The lost calf, it's higher pitched, it's shorter, but it still has that urgency. It still has that pitch on it with that panic that gets them to respond. And the way you'll do this is you'll kind of mix this in with some calf regathering mews. You can mix in a little bit of buzz mew in it too. So, but just for an example, So that's just an example of how I use the lost calf. And you're going to do that kind of about that length of time, and then you're going to sit there and then do it again, and you're going to repeat that 3, 4, 5 times while you're standing there. It's not something that I'm going to say works 100% of the time, but if there's a bull within earshot of that, they respond a lot more than they don't. So it's kind of funny because bulls are actually pretty dang protective of the calves in the hierarchy. It's funny, I was talking to Guy from Western Contours last night about his Colorado hunt, and he was telling me how he had the opportunity to sit there and just really watch a herd and the dynamics and the behavior and how that lead cow really ran the herd, and it was so cool listening to him talk about how he just sat there and soaked all of this in, and how that dynamic played out, and how everybody had their different roles, and how everybody really looked to that lead cow for direction. But this is one of those things here with the lost calf where the bull is really, really protective of the calves in his group. And he doesn't know from the bed if that calf is lost, can't find him. Maybe the calf got up and went down to water and just now on the way back and kind of confused on which way to go. And by him popping off from the bed, it just gives that calf a little bit of direction. Now, the thing I will caution you on is once you get a response, sitting there continuing to do the lost calf. You don't want to do that. Your whole intention here is to get that bull to give up his location. That's why when you're doing this, you can't have a creek running by you. You can't have a hunting partner standing next to you crunching pine cones or sticks or opening up a candy bar wrapper. You need to be in a position to where you can really hear. Because this bull responding may be a little ways away and you may just barely hear it. But that's okay because that gives you a direction. Based on how barely you could hear it, it's like, okay, that bull's 600 yards out. Or, depending on how thick the timber is. But it gives you a gauge. It gives you a direction and it gives you a gauge of distance. Then from that point, then you move in and you're not going all the way to it. You're only going so you're within about 125 or 150 yards. That's all the closer you need to get to that. Then you can set up. So, we would use this. So, we would locate, as we're moving, we would use location bugles in the location routine until about 9 o'clock. 8:30, 9 o'clock. Then we would switch over to, if we didn't have any responses, then we'd switch over to the lost calf. Then once we got a response, then we move in, and then we would wait right there until about 11:30, and then we'd break into the breeding sequence. Wednesday, I think, I started at about, it was just barely after 11. Started the breeding sequence, and by the time everything wrapped up, had 4 bulls going, 5 bulls going. 2 bulls, including one of the herd bulls, was rolling down the side that they were bedded on. This isn't a draw that we've hiked back into and had great success. Obviously, Knox wasn't with me, and that's why we decided to go in there. This was, we moved camp Tuesday, so this would have been Wednesday. Back in our normal area, we knew we immediately wanted to go into that canyon. But yeah, those two bulls were coming right down. The other big boy was piping off. Just couldn't get shots on them. But I have a really, this is one of those areas that trying to get to these bulls is really tough. But now, based on the behavior, I was really able to watch them and watch how they responded and where they moved and what they did and what ground they covered. And coupled with the information that I gained from them last year, I know exactly what to do. We were going to go back in there on Wednesday or on Saturday morning and hit this game plan. But one of the partners shot a bull right at dark Friday night. We spent quite a bit of time looking for it in the dark, and then he and his son went back in Saturday morning, just really gritted, and we were going to take everybody in on Saturday morning to get one of these bulls and just do a big mass one trip pack out. Since he was looking, we kind of went up and hunted an area close by that if he did, find the bull, we could move over and help him pack out. It kind of looks like, based on everything that heard, the way this bull kind of dropped, really acted like a whitetail, hit that void above the lungs and the spine. So not a lethal hit, but still, we looked Friday night until about almost 12:45, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then he went back on Saturday and spent all day gridding that mountainside. So lost calf, great tool. That's tool number one. Let's see, Jim. I had a cow tag, used the lost cow call, 2 or 3 calls every 5 minutes, called in a 6x7. Yeah, 6 yards from my wife. He did not make a sound. Took 40 minutes to get him in. Looked for the cow for 15 minutes. I used the lost calf call. Could not get a cow to respond. I guess they don't care. Did an alarm bark with a bull. He started at a loss 15 times. That really works. Gave up on him. No cows. Yeah, it's kind of funny. The lost calf can be really effective on cows as well, Jim. But you're right. A lot of times, bulls will be the first one to respond. That's interesting that he didn't even say a peep, because what time of year was that, Jim? Because typically, especially if they're bedded, that bull will crack off from his bed and give direction to the calf. Okay, so while waiting for Jim to respond on time of year of that, oops, I think he actually just did. Let's see. We would have filled tags first week if we had bull tags, but no. Yeah, so early in the season. So, okay. Second little sound that I will do to get bulls to crack off from their bed is what's called a tending bugle. And again, I really haven't talked about tending bugles in the bull sounds. The tending bugle, it's kind of like the huff, grunt, and whine without the huff and grunt. So it's that whine. So there's not a lot of volume to it. There's not a lot of high pitch. And when they chuckle afterwards, they have that real airy chuckle. Now, the other thing that you can add to this is glunking. And on a diaphragm read, if you want to glunk, you say the word wit, wit, wit. And you're barely making contact on the reed when you get to the it. With it. With it. So when you combine those two, it sounds a little something like this. So that is a tending bugle. And again, what you're portraying there is you're a bull tending to a cow. So she's not fully in estrus yet, just kind of starting to come in. But he's tending to her. He's paying attention to her. This plays on the bull's emotions of, okay, I recognize that sound. I know what's going on over there. And again, it's not one of those things that's 100% of the time. You can even combine the two. You can combine the lost calf with that tending bugle. The only thing is, though, is with the lost calf, you're doing the lost calf first, then you go into that tending bugle. You can't go back to the lost calf. That's not realistic. That doesn't make sense right there. So that's why it's a good idea to do the lost calf 3, 4, 5 times. Nope, nothing's responding. Now, you introduce that tending bugle, and that tending bugle. I knew that question was going to come. That tending bugle basically gives the appearance that a bull arrived to that cow or that calf and is taking care of her. Okay. The tending bugle is one of those things that you can throw into the middle of your breeding sequence too. So, all right, Jay, what bugle tube is that? It has scree camo. I like it. Sounds good. So, Jay, you need to go check out the 2021 Grunt Tube Challenge. This is the tube that won it this year. This is the antagonizer from Mile High Note Game Calls. Yes, they do have a partnership where they're working with Scree for the camo. Tom Deasing, the owner of Mile High, he gave me an antagonizer about 4 years ago when he first came out with it, and Bryce, one of my hunting partners, was gracious enough to snag it. And actually it was 5 years ago that Tom gave that to me, because I didn't see the tube for about 3 years. I just got it back earlier this summer, threw it into the mix this year in the Grunt Tube Challenge, and it actually it actually won this year. It received 66% of the votes. So here I'll It's got a great sound. It's actually the tube that I used all this year. The one thing I really like about that tube is it has the perfect amount of back pressure. To me, it gives the perfect amount of back pressure to where you're not having to force it. It dams up the air enough so your note stability is a lot better. And it doesn't have too much back pressure, so you're really having to force, or very little back pressure to where everything just floods right out. So it has that, to me, it has that perfect combination. In fact, that's the only tube I used this year. I did pick up the new metal tube from Phelps. I used the metal tube three times at night. I use the metal tube with the mouthpiece more for locating. But during the day for all the calling and everything else, that antagonizer is my go-to. I also switched back this year to using the white amp. I haven't used the white amp in a couple of years, and I just picked a couple up before season, and I forgot how much I absolutely love that reed, because bugles, it will hit that high pitch ear-ringing bugle, and this one reed got me through all season long. I did not have to use any other reeds. So there was some times towards the end of the season when I was doing a lot of breeding sequence and a lot of calling, that would get saturated a little bit, and so I'd have to swap it out. The reed is starting to get stretched a little bit, ready for a new one. So, but yeah, that's the combo I was using this year. So, wow. Oh, yeah. Jay, you ought to hear it. You ought to hear that combo out in the mountains. Okay, so how to get quiet elk to talk. So from the crack of first daylight while you're moving location bugles, because they're still in transition just a little bit. That's why you're going to stay with your location routines. By about 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest, you're going to switch over to the lost calf. So do that 3, 4, 5 times. You want to give that gap, you want to give that space in between. Give that sound a chance to get out, give the response a chance to come back. So space those out, then do it again. Pause for a good 30 seconds or so, do it again. Then you can mix in the tending bugle. Then again, you can wait 30 seconds, do the tending bugle again, do that 3, 4 times. Then if nothing's responded, move on. Repeat that process again. Jay, wanted to say thank you so much for teaching on calling. I did the breeding calling to get my bull. Finally did everything to a T. Tracy was with me and seeing the whole thing go down. Yeah, Jay, that was awesome. Was so excited for you. Congrats again, brother. Joe, if you're on tonight, I read a little bit more of the article you sent over about your guys' trip to Colorado. Absolutely amazing responses. I wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you for, the support. It's funny, it's September. I got a lot of notifications the last couple of days, end of September, and, we've had quite a few members kind of drop off. It's kind of funny, we pick up a bunch July, August, and then end of September they kind of disappear for a little bit, and then they circle back around. But for all of you guys that continue to stay and continue to support, I wanted to say thank you. I love hearing your stories. I love receiving, the emails, the text messages, phone calls on the mountain. That's a little tough. But no, I love hearing, about your adventures, about your encounters. So it's one of the reasons why, I do this. I love helping others and love seeing, success of others. So, all right, guys. So that is it for tonight. There's your calling silent elk strategies. This will be available, for you guys to come back and watch over and over and over again. Like I said, with the new e-course, these sounds will be included in the cow module, in the elk module, or the bull module. I will teach you how to do these both on a diaphragm reed, on an open reed cow call. I'll teach you how to do the tending bugle on both a diaphragm reed and an external reed. So that way, you guys can learn how to do both and mix it up. So Jay just lost a good friend to COVID. Happy to see you're doing better. Appreciate that. Yeah, I actually got notification when I was up in camp that a friend of mine, same age as me, COVID took him as well. So yeah, I'll tell you what, guys, now that I've gone through it, before I was one of those type of people that what's the big deal? It's just a cold. This stuff's pretty serious. I didn't get hit as hard as others. I still really have no sense of smell, no sense of taste. And I'll tell you what, guys, hunting elk when you can't smell is absolutely miserable. I did not realize how much you rely on your sense of smell when you were out hunting elk. And to not have that, it just added a whole other element in degree of difficulty. But you know what? Hey, stuck with it, stayed. So Jay, appreciate. Jim, yeah, everything I used got from you. They all work. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. So glad they're working. So. All right, guys, I am still working on the website. I do still have several videos to record. I'm also trying to figure out on the platform how I can plug in the Wapiti Wednesday YouTube videos, because I want to put all of these videos on there so that you guys, can have access. That Wapiti Wednesday is going to be its own module. That way you can upload those, and so that way you will have access to all those. Those of you that are listening that have the yearly membership on this, the way it's going to work when we transition over to the new platform, I will email each of you a code. So when you sign up on the new site and you go to check out, you will enter that code, and if you have 7 months left on your annual, that code's going to give you 7 months free on the new site. So before your card gets charged on the annual. The new site is only going to be annual. It's going to be $150 for the year. But you will have the ability to break it up into 3 $50 payments if you want. So you can either pay one time $150, or you can break it into 3 $50 payments. From what I understand, by breaking it up into the payments, the 3 payments, it doesn't add any finance charges. It doesn't add any interest. It doesn't add any other fees. So it's just simply 3 payments of $50. So that's how the new one's going to work. So going to kind of go away from the monthly. So, but there, you guys are up to speed, still working on getting all of that put together. Not sure exactly when, going to launch it. Getting this late in the year, I might actually wait and just launch it early spring, late winter, early springtime, and make the transition then. But in the meantime, we will still be rocking here every 2 weeks on Wapiti Live Q&A. So back at the same time as 7:30. So keep tuning in, guys. Appreciate each and every one of you. So, all right, don't see any additional questions, so we are going to call it off for tonight. So thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for the comments, the questions. And as always, keep calling, keep practicing. Most importantly, though, keep having fun with it, guys. All right. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.